Welcome to the Nova Comic Book Show. We're here at Balticon 45. Guest of honor, Steve Geppi with Geppi's Museum and Diamond Comic Distributors. Well, good to meet you, Steve.
Yeah, nice to meet you too, Larry. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's good to have you on. Now, let's talk a little bit about, first, you're a collector, I know. What started you collecting?
Well, I bought comics when I was 5 years. I should say my mother bought me comics when I was 5 years old, and it was a passion that I had, from day one. Not like everybody else. Around when I was 12 or 13. In my case, I had to go to work, so it was not because I didn't like comics anymore. It just got taken away from me, and didn't realize that until later on when I rediscovered them.
Ah, now you started Diamond Comic Distributors. I know you started actually with your own comic shop in the basement of a TV studio.
Yeah, 1974. I had already been buying and selling comics at conventions, and I was a mailman at the time, and I suddenly realized I was making more money on the weekends than I was at my job, so I opened an unprecedented comic book store in the basement of the TV repair shop in Catonsville.
Cool, cool. And how did that lead into Diamond Comic Distributors?
Well, it's funny because the last thing we ever wanted to do was carry new comics because it was a terrible deal. You had to pay for them in advance, you had to buy them non-returnable. But one of the reasons we bought them was because we had to keep a hook, keep the customers who were buying the old comics coming back on a regular basis. And of course the new comics came out every week, so that was a hook.
Now, you guys did such a good job. Some people accuse you of being a monopoly. I think it's just you just did such a good job, other people fell away. And at one point, I believe Marvel tried to distribute themselves. You want to tell that story real quick?
That's a story that is legendary in the comic industry. But in 1995, when Marvel was owned by the billionaire Ronald Perlman, who owns Revlon and the like, he decided very covertly they were going to buy a distributor and distribute their own comics, and in fact, not even carry anybody else's product. So we found out, and next thing you know, we all got cut off, and all the distributors lost 33% of their business overnight. And then DC Comics, who was publishing Superman, didn't want to buy a distributor, but they decided they couldn't afford to take the chance that Marvel might have something going on here by talking direct to retailers. So they decided they were going to go exclusive with one distributor, and we won that election.
That's a good deal. Now, let's talk a little bit about the museum. You started the museum when?
That'll be 5 years come this September. It's my true passion. I've been doing this for, believe it or not, close to 40 years now. And what really I got started with is what I still love the most. That's the comics themselves, the old collectible, valuable or invaluable side of it that really tripped my trigger. So I've been accumulating for 35 years this pretty awesome collection. And I decided, like many people do after a while, that it's a great thing to own it, but it's more fun when you can share it and other people can see it. So I built Geppi's Entertainment Museum down right at Camden Yards, which is a monument of pop culture.
Now, before we go, there's a lot of collectors out there. What would you suggest to them? What do you want to say to them?
Well, I say if you haven't bought a comic book or have never read a comic book or a science fiction paperback, you have no idea what you're missing, because you're influenced by it every day when you consider the top 20 movies of all time are dominated by science fiction and comic books. And in a world where you're dominated by video and internet and the like, nothing wrong with those, but don't forget the good old feel of holding a book in your hands, reading it, and understanding that there's a lot to be said for great storytelling. Beyond all the greatest science fiction effects you'll ever see, or special effects I should say, in the movies, without a good story, they're not gonna win your heart. And that's a bonus when they do.
Now, how's the easiest way to find a good comic shop?
1-888 Comic Book is the comic shop locator service that Diamond, my company, instituted 15 years ago. You go in, it's very simple. You put in your zip code address, and it will tell you the 5 nearest comic book stores to you. Of course, there's an online version of it. We're still soon going to be launching a handheld app, and it's really a great way. But in today's world with Google and all the various search engines, it's really not hard to find anything. So I would advocate that wherever you live, if you love comics, you love science fiction, you love just a good time reading and enjoying yourself, check out the comic shop locator service or go online and just put in whatever it is you're interested in. You're going to find your way.
Great. I think we're going to come up to the museum probably for a Halloween episode.
I hope you do. It's a fun place, and selfishly, I have to say I've not seen a human being go in that place and not come out and loved it. It's everybody's childhood, whether you're 8 or you're 80. It's the history of pop culture through the eyes of the comic character. You'll see all the original stuff too. Action Comics #1. You'll see real movie posters. There's nothing fake in there. It's all the real deal, and it's an educational tour journey through the history of the country, really, or the world for that matter, through the eyes of pop culture.
Well, great. Thank you again for being on, and we hope to see you soon.
My pleasure. Good luck to you, Larry.
Thank you.
In the middle of the 20th century, we witnessed the arrival of a world-changing core of individuals. Their gift to us, stirring words of inspiration that would live forever in popular culture.
Still here at Balticon 45, and I'm with the con chair and co-con chairs, Jeanette Butler and Patty Kinlock. I believe next year Patty's actually going to be the con chair. Jeanette, why don't you start us off? Tell us a little bit about Balticon and BSFS.
BSFS, which is Baltimore Science Fiction Society, produces Balticon. BSFS is a literary organization whose goal is to promote the writing, reading, and dissemination of science fiction, fantasy, and horror literature. We're very book-centric, paper book-centric.
Including comics.
Right. We have over, including comics, we have a large comic library. We have over 2,000 volumes in our book library.
Great.
Over 10,000 volumes, excuse me, in our book library. It is a lending library. It's done on the honor system. The big focus for us in the spring is certainly Balticon. Balticon, we usually have somewhere between 1,700 and 2,200 people attending. We have roughly 300 people involved in putting this together and running it.
Great.
Everything from computer people to sound engineers to gophers running, who go for this and go for that.
Mm-hmm.
People like Patty, who put together this book, our BIS fan. Always our BIS fan includes art by our artist guest author. Sometimes it includes an original story written for us by our author, by our main guest of honor, which is always an author. This year our guest of honor was Dr. Benjamin Bova, who is one of the grandmasters of science fiction, one of the last living grandmasters of science fiction. And Vincent DeFate, our artist guest of honor this year, is in fact one of the most important names in the founding of science fiction art and science art. He's very active in the science art as well.
And we've already had Steve Geppi on, who was also. That was
my next one. And Steve Geppi was with us Friday night. He's a homegrown Baltimore boy, and he was the moving force behind bringing the comics industry to Baltimore. Geppi Comics was where I went to buy comics as a kid.
Great.
I had all my comic book subscriptions when I was a teenager went to Geppi Comics so they wouldn't get folded in my mailbox.
Now, Patty, who are we going to have coming next year?
Okay, well, next year, we'll have the flyer right here so you can see it. Our guest of honor is going to be author Jody Lynn Nye, and she's a fantasy author, and I believe she is probably best known for being a co-author with Robert Askren in the Myth series. Our artist guest of honor is James Odberg. He is also known as Nyborg. He is a fantasy artist.
Mm-hmm.
And our ghost of honor will be Robert Askren. And our 2011 Compton Cook Award winner, James Knapp. The 2012 winner will be announced at the convention. And we have recently had a fan ghost of honor, who is a longtime member of BSFS, Richard Butler.
Excellent. And how would somebody want to get in contact, say, with Annette for the Balticon organization?
www.balticon.org or www.bsfs.org. Either of those will get you to us, or you can always simply write to info@balticon.org, and we'll get your question to the proper department.
Great. I'd like to thank you both for being on, and we hope to be here next year again with you.
We hope to have you here. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and I hope we have a great weekend.
So far, so good.
Thank you very much.
We're still here at Balticon number 45, here with CJ Henderson and John French, two wonderful authors. CJ's actually done several comics, some Batman, some Kolchak the Night Stalker, one of my favorites, and he's actually used John, who's actually a crime scene investigator, in a couple of Batman comics. I believe you've worked for the Gotham City PD.
Yes, for a couple of issues I was working under Captain James Gordon of the Gotham City Police Department, helping him catch the Joker when Batman was out of town.
And CJ did that, didn't he? He wrote that, right?
Yes, he did.
Talking to you, not me.
Yeah. CJ, tell us a little about what's going on.
Well, I'm not doing any more Batman, unfortunately. But I've done Archie comics, The Punisher, Cherry Pop-Tart, all sorts of things in the wonderful world of comics. Mostly these days I'm known for Supernatural Investigators, the Teddy London series, the Piers Night series. Piers Night number 2, Central Park Night, is premiering this weekend, so I'm very happy about that. That'll be the plug. I mean, there's so much. I've been published for 35 years. What do you want me to concentrate on?
Well, let's start with any comics you got coming out for Moonstone or anybody else?
No comics at the moment. They had me doing the Spider comic, and then they had me do the first new Spider novel in 65 years. They had me doing things like the Kolchak Wide Visions, and then they had me do the first Kolchak novel in 20 years. They keep getting novels out of me.
Hey, novels are good.
Yeah, it's a strange world where you can sell a novel easier than you can a comic book. Sorry, I turned away.
But that's okay. And you got any other specific projects coming out yourself?
Oh my goodness. What's coming out? I just did a sequel to The Mountains of Madness by Lovecraft for Robert M. Price. I just did a Christmas mythos story for Scott David Anilowski. The Spider novel, I just did a new Green Hornet story for the Green Hornet. Well, it's not a Green Hornet magazine, it's a pulp magazine. The Green Hornet's going to be on the cover. That's being solicited for Moonstone right now.
Excellent.
There's always so much, and I don't want to just ramble, folks. If you go to my website, www.cjhenderson.com, there's always free short stories to read. There's an FAQ you can learn about me. I don't want to drive you nuts. And if you read the stories and you like them and they don't change fast enough, go to where it says contact webmaster and say, hey, change the stories, damn it. I need all the help I can get to keep her working harder.
Now, John, what are you guys on?
Okay, my latest book is Here There Be Monsters, about a Baltimore City police detective who becomes the department's unofficial monster hunter. Bianca Jones, in one of her cases, encounters a monster and learns, do a job once and it's yours. And then she starts fighting monsters, both human and inhuman. The follow-up is Bullets and Brimstone, in which Bianca teams up with a Double Zone detective created by Patrick Thomas.
Great. Well, thank you both for being on. I will get this on our TV show and then up on the web, and I'll send you a copy.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Really, thank you.
Great.
Good to see you like always, man.
Thanks, guys.
Our final entry tonight, entry number 30 in the Journeyman Division.
In the real world, not everyone is a supermodel playing killer frisbee. So if on the grid